Oh, hello everyone, and welcome to this afternoon's webinar. Thank you for taking the time out to come and join myself, Anna, and my husband David, who is sitting behind me actually today. But before we start looking at what is happening on the markets, may I just draw your attention to the disclaimer that I know you can see on your screen. As you know, trading can be a very risky business, so please don't ever think of using money that you cannot afford to lose very quickly. As always, we will be looking at the charts through the prism of volume price analysis, which is those of you who perhaps have not come across VPA, volume price analysis, before. It's essentially looking at the price action, but also seeing how that interacts with the volume, because what we're actually looking for is confirmation that the price action we are seeing is genuine or not. So, and we do that by looking at the volume, because volume should be supportive of price action, going up and going down, and if it's not, it's an anomaly. So that sort of is a very big signal that basically says, hey, something is going on here. Now, VPA is that's just the overall broad overarching methodology, and within that, as I said, we've got price action, volume, candles, candle patterns, support and resistance, very important in VPA, and time. And by time, I don't just mean the time chart that you are looking to trade, but also multiple time frames, and we also look at non-time based charts, either Renko or tick, and I think we're going to have a look at some of those today. And to help traders understand the methodology a little better, the principal book is there is a companion book with worked examples of the methodology, and they're all available on Amazon. Right, now let's have a look. I've actually got something slightly different today. I've actually got here the equivalent. This is the version, if you like, of the Ftse 100 futures, and it's a bit nostalgic for David and myself, because this is where we started all those years ago. We actually started trading Ftse 100 futures, which, when you think about it, is completely mad for a new trader. But you know, it's day trading became very fashionable at the end of the 90s, as it is once again with what's been happening with the virus. And here we are again, and I'm looking at the Ftse 100. I've got a particular reason for the Ftse, other than obviously we've got a nice piece of price action going on at the moment, and as we can see, it is actually paused at a support, very important support level on our Camarilla indicator. Support and resistance, you have to find a way of defining it on the chart. In terms of our methodology, we use price-based support and resistance. Number of times a price, a line, a level is hit, and on the MT4, MT5 platform of the indicator that we've developed for this, what actually happens is you get a slightly thicker line, as you can see here, means it's a stronger either support or resistance level, or you have this hashed line. On NinjaTrader, when we'll have a look at David's machine, we have this indicator we've called the accumulation distribution indicator, and basically the lines actually thicken, they get thicker and thicker. So the stronger the region, you will know that visually, as it were. We weren't able to do it for MT45 because of the constraints of the code. We also look at support and resistance through the prism of volume, and here we have what we call the volume point of control. This is, if you like, the fulcrum. It's actually of the chart. It's basically volume and price, but over time. So it highlights, if you like, those phases of price action where there is no clear bias to the price action, and you can see the histogram here at the back that picks out those regions where, as I said, you have an increase of volume over time. It's a density of volume, and that also acts as support and resistance. We also have, I haven't had an triggered on this piece of price action, but if we look at this candle here with these little purple dots, this is when the price action is outside of the average true range. This indicator is triggered. It's triggered in real time. And what happens is, it happens when markets are moving very fast. huge opportunity for market makers, insiders to trap traders. But what it also does, it also then gives another resistance and support point. So once the price action calms down, in order for the price action to move either one way or another, this level has got to be broken. Now, what happened here was quite interesting. On the 5-minute chart, you had a whole series of volatility candles. You had the first one. The typical reaction is the price action retreats to within the spread of the candle, which it did here, shot straight back up. A lot of volume under this candle as well, but we know we're in a very volatile market condition, if you like. So we just have to wait until, you know, it calms down. It's like, you know, you throw a pebble into a rock into the middle of a pond and you have these ripples. You have to wait till the ripples die down. And we had a third, not a fourth, then we had yet another one. This is what typically happens after volatility. You get a period of congestion, but if you look again, there's the top and the bottom, and in fact it didn't break the high of that volatility candle, but did actually break the low. And this is what I'm saying. So that also creates support and resistance levels. So we have support and resistance based on price. We have support and resistance regions that are created from the VPOC. And finally, what we've done, and you could use Fibonacci. We just happen to have used, you know, the Camarilla protocol. We have this indicator which it gives some hierarchy to these levels. And I've been looking at this piece of price action on the Ftse here, and this is what I was expecting. I was expecting certainly a move to the S4 on the 15-minute chart, and it has cooperated. And what tends to happen, it then pauses. We have to wait until it could reverse, or is it actually going to carry on lower? So if we take that as the primary trend lower that we've seen here from the break of the volume point of control, we've got some buying, we've got buyers stepping in here at this level. We know it's an important level because on the S4, and by coincidence, and it's purely a coincidence, it's very close to the S4 on the hourly chart. The Camarilla works in the values that are given by the indicator. Intraday, they change every day, and they will refresh on time frames up to, but not including the hour. But on the hour, the levels that you see here, these are valid for the whole of the week. And that really just, you know, is support and resistance, I think, on the next level, excuse the pun, as it were. And the non-time based chart, this is the piece of price action that we're looking at the moment. This is on the Renko. We can see the consolidation that we had here. We've had a break of this support. It's not a hugely strong support at 57.62, but it's still pointing lower. But we know why it's paused, because it's paused at a significant support level, as highlighted by the S4 on the 15-minute and the S4 on the hourly. So because it's you've got this confluence of levels on 2 time frames, you know that, you know, if it's got to go through, it's got to have a lot of volume, but it's going to pause. And you use these levels in a number of different ways. You use them as potential targets, potential price objectives, and also for stop loss as well. Now, the other reason I got the Ftse here is because I don't know if the person is with us today or not. I'll just have a quick look. If you just bear with me. No, so it doesn't matter. So I'll send him a link to the recording. The question I was asked was, he is an index trader, but of the Ftse 100, and he wanted to know whether looking at the currency market, the Forex market, and in particular the British pound, what should he look for to perhaps give him an edge for trading this particular index? And it's a really interesting question, because it also applies to you know, whatever index. So it could be we look at the US indices, because this is the North American, this is specifically for the North American session. But it did actually get me thinking, and I did a bit of sort of a quick background reading on the Ftse 100, and it's very, very interesting how currencies, by looking at the Forex market, let's have a look here. Here we are. how that can help you with potentially what is happening in the stock market, in an index. An index is just a reflection of the stock market. Now, back in 2017, I believe, let's have a look if I've got it here. Yep, right. And I've deliberately chosen 2017 because this is what it used to be. The Ftse 100 was very sensitive to what was happening with sterling, and the prime reason for that is because the weighting of the index, as it said here, 71% of the revenues generated by the Ftse 100 companies came from outside of the UK. It was heavily weighted to mining, oil stocks, commodities. So those companies, although they were based, they may have had their headquarters in the UK, or they were listed on the stock exchange, because their revenues were derived from commodities, and commodities are based in dollars. When the dollar rose and the pound fell, because they were earning in dollars and they converted back into British pound, they were going from a strong currency to a weak currency. That would improve their bottom line. So basically, and this was Schroders actually did the calculation. So essentially, as I said, the large proportion of profits is made in dollars. If sterling weakens, then the dollar revenues, once converted, are worth more. In 3 months, the Ftse rose 10.4, the pound fell 12.8. But that is 2017. Things are a little different, and what I'm going to suggest to this person who wrote to me is you have to look at what is making up the index. It also applies the US, any index, the DAX, or for example, the NQ. Now we know the NQ, the NASDAQ, is primarily tech stocks, and when tech stocks are doing well, and in these last few months, because of the way the market has been going, the whole of the market has been pulled up higher in the US by about 5 stocks. That's Facebook, Google, Apple, Amazon. The rest of the companies in that index have really not done terribly well. So the thing I would suggest, certainly with the Ftse, is go and have a look at what is making up the Ftse at the moment, the companies that now make up the 100. What's interesting also with the Ftse, that back in June, when we had, obviously the virus, Carnival, which is a big cruise company, and EasyJet were actually thrown out, and they were replaced. They were replaced by local companies. So when you want to trade an index, I'm using the Ftse, first of all, see what are the constituents, what are the weightings of those companies. Do they derive most of their income from abroad in foreign currency? Because if they do, as they did back in 2017, then currency fluctuations are going to make a big difference to the bottom line, and that is also going to make a difference to when the index is going to rise and fall. And of course, if it's primarily local companies or UK-based companies that are earning in the UK, what is going to drive the Ftse? Well, it's going to be the economy, it's going to be Brexit, it's going to be all sorts of maybe other reasons, but are based more to do with the local economy. So you have to do a little bit of research into the background for the index, and as I said, and then look at, does it have an impact on what the currency is actually doing. Now, what else I had here? So that was that. Let's have it. Anything else you want to say to that, David? Have I left anything out on the looking through the index? No. David, have I sort of covered it as well? Let's have a look. Earnings, and then of course you've got to look at when if you've got in an index, you will find companies don't have equal weighting. It isn't as if you've got 100 companies and they've all got one share. Isn't that true? They've all got different weightings in the index. So check out who are the big dogs of the index, if you like. So because when they have got their earnings, they are going to, they're going to either pull the index up or they are going to push it down. So that's sort of a little bit of background that I wanted to say about certainly the Ftse, but it applies, you apply those points, if you like, the fundamental analysis of an index to anything. And moving to the US, the S&P or the, you know, whatever, the NASDAQ, or you look at one of the other indices, you would apply this, you know, you'd ask the same questions. The US economy is fairly self-contained, but there are companies there that earn abroad. So is the value of the dollar likely to impact a majority of the companies that are in that particular index? And looking at this week, what is going to happen, and what I've done is, it's yesterday was of course we had a fantastic day yesterday with a big fall in apparently the Dow. I think the Dow almost went down 1,000 points, but it's a little bit more subdued today. Let me have a look. Oh, I'm fine. Sorry, Dan? It's very subdued. And also volatility, that we always say look at the VIX, certainly if you're for sentiment on the US markets, and the Ftse 100 also has its own version of the VIX, so which you can find at investing.com. Let's see what's happening very quickly. The futures. In fact, it's a very curious pattern. Those of you who, I don't know if you're lucky enough like us to be able to look at the markets both from the London session and, you know, in the Northern Hemisphere, we're very spoilt. We've got both, you know, we've got the whole day, and we've got London, Europe, and then we've got the US. If you've noticed lately, they tend to rise in the morning, and then come the US session, they tend to, you know, they can have a bit of a fall, and then perhaps they come back later. Now, what's happening on that? That's up. Well, the Nasdaq is up 92. Let's have a look. That's what they say. Yeah, but they're still looking pretty fragile. But if you're an intraday trader, if it's a buy, it's a buy, and if it's not a buy, it's not a buy. And even yesterday, after that huge fall, in fact, I've got the where is it? There we are. I showed it this morning. Let's have a look. Yeah, I can open it. There we are. This was the big fall in the YM. This is the 5-minute chart. You know, the 2-bar reversal came in, and up it went. And I think it actually went up. I think there was some talk, a hint that it was Pelosi's spokesperson who said, well, maybe there could be a stimulus deal before the election, but that's all fallen by the wayside. And at the moment, what's driving the markets at the moment are, obviously, we've got the election, we've got the virus, we've got increasing numbers, but the big thing this week is earnings, and I've got them here Thursday. So if you're intraday trading, again on the indices, Thursday is the probably the most important day of the week. There's just so many companies reporting that day. You've got Apple, you've got Amazon, Alphabet. I mean, it goes on and on and on, as you can see here. Tomorrow, some of these guys from these companies, I believe, are up in Congress. They're on some committee, but I think the big questions are going to come on the 16th of November, which is after the election. Let's have a look. There we are. Let's have a look. Quick. And that's it. This is interesting. The Exxon, they were actually ejected from the Dow, weren't they, David? They were just thrown out and replaced by, I can't remember, is it Salesforce came in? I'm sure it was Salesforce. Yeah. Again, it's one of these things. If you're trading the YM or you're trading the Dow, you really need to keep, you know, just be aware of who's in, who's out, what their weighting is. Do they earn overseas? Is the currency movement in currency is going to have a big impact on their bottom line? Because, you know, all this stuff is going to have an effect. Oh, dear old GE are coming in today, and we've also got some pharmaceuticals. We've got GSK, who are in the Ftse 100, and we've got Moderna, obviously. So you've got the virus. There's all these strands that you've got to be aware of. All this that's in the background. I know it seems like there's an awful lot you've got to keep in your head simultaneously, but honestly, you know, you do. it does come to a point when you think, oh, right, you make yourself a calendar. There's lots of them around. I actually subscribe to both Bloomberg. I've subscribed to the Financial Times. These guys, they put all this data together, and the beginning of the week, you know what you're trading. You've got the information, and those are the days that you think, oh, right, something might tip the balance. Is it good? You're not trying to predict what's going to happen, good results, bad results. You just have to be aware that there is this event, and it's a potential risk event. So when you see the price action and you've got it on the back of your mind, it could cause a reaction. Now back to my dear old Ftse. What's happening? I feel quite nostalgic, David, on this one. There we are. We've had an attempt to rise, not gone very far. It's a very steady, of all the indices, I would say this is not terribly scary, as it were. On the 15-minute, as I said, it's these two levels, so I'll keep an eye on it. If it goes through the S4, then we will certainly get a continuation of the downwards trend. The Renko is basically keeping us in. If you're not in the trade at the moment, at least you've got the levels. You can decide whether to go with the break, or what can happen with the S4, you can actually get a reversal, but we are coming almost to the end of certainly of the cash market coming to a close in the UK. I think it's probably something more interesting over the other side. If you've got any questions, just drop them into the chat box. I'll happily answer them either on air or type in the chat box. Otherwise, I will pass over to David.